Today will be a day to remember for the rest of your life. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is excited to present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program connected by Extreme Networks. With over 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 47 states and countries all over the world, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans important life values like commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty.
But you have to make right decisions even when nobody's watching you.
Well, respect is not just given out. It's not handed out like a brochure. It's earned.
Today, you are presented with an opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more important than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. They didn't roll out the bed great. They put the work in, on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom, in their communities. They made themselves a Hall of Famer on and off the field.
Your feet can't take you where your mind's never been.
Because you can make it, but it's just gonna take a little hard work and some effort and the drive and determination.
And today, you will learn you can do the same thing they did. You don't have to have a gold jacket or a bronze bust to make a difference in the lives of others. It's your decision whether you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
If attitudes are contagious, is your attitude worth catching?
It's integrity as well, because when you decide to pursue something and you don't quit, that says a lot about you.
Commitment to excellence. We can all aspire to be the best.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the Heart of a Hall of Famer program, connected by Extreme Networks.
There have been so many people who have influenced my career over the past 18 years, but my relationship with Bruce Matthews made an easy choice. We played together with the Houston Oilers for 11 years. From the first time I saw him play, I knew that we had a lot in common. We were both old school. Good old smash mouth football. We respected the game and how the game was supposed to be played. Bruce and I had a similar work ethic and a mutual respect.
To my line coaches, Tom Lavatt, Bill Lavaroni, Pat Morris, Jim Huber, Jeff Davidson, and Bruce Matthews. Thank you for putting up with me.
He demanded a level of play, but he also taught me something else. He instilled in me the honor of playing offensive line at USC in the mold of Hall of Famers Ron Yeri, Ron Mix, Anthony Munoz, and Bruce Matthews.
I'd first like to say how honored and blessed I am to be here. If someone had told me when I was a kid that one day I would play in the NFL and let alone be inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I wouldn't have believed them. I consider it an honor and a privilege to be standing up here today, and I'd like to thank the Lord Jesus Christ for blessing me and my family so much.
Good-looking young man.
All right. Welcome to Parkville High School here in Baltimore, Maryland for the latest installment of the Heart of a Hall of Famer series connected by Extreme Networks. And we're here with Hall of Famer Mr. Bruce Matthews. My name is Nathan Martin. I'm the communications coordinator at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And it's there at the Hall of Fame where we have a mission statement to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve the history of the game, to promote the values that the game teaches, and to celebrate excellence together. And when you hear values of the game, what are we talking about? You know, at the Hall, we've kind of boiled it down to 5. There's probably hundreds that you could think of, but the 5 that we talk about are things like commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty. Lessons that make you a great football player, but they can also just make you a better son, daughter, brother, sister, parent, whatever role you're really playing in life. And we're going to talk about those values today. But before we get into that and kind of go through the program, which will be a lot of question and answer, some thank yous. First and foremost, we need to thank Extreme Networks, the sponsor on this program. Without them, myself and Bruce, we wouldn't be able to be here with you guys at Parkville here in Maryland. The students wouldn't be able to connect in with us from the various schools around the country. So thank you to Extreme for being such a great partner to us at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We also want to thank the teachers and administrators, in particular here at Parkville, for opening up their doors, making this so seamless, helping us get this set up, and seeing the value in bringing you guys out of class to come in here and listen to Mr. Matthews for a little bit. And last but not least, we want to thank you guys as students. Thank you for coming in here. Thank you for sitting, and thank you for listening online if you're connected in online. And hopefully you guys will listen with an open heart and mind and take something away from the conversation that we're going to have today. Before we turn it over some questions and opening remarks, if you are watching the program on YouTube, go ahead, comment, let us know where you're watching the program from, what school you're at, what state you're in. We want to hear from you, and if you comment with a question, we'll try our best to make that become part of the program today. And no matter who's watching, if you guys go ahead and take a picture, or you get a picture of your class watching the program, you get a picture of Mr. Matthews afterwards, go ahead and tag at Pro Football HOF. We'll do our best to share those on social platforms. But with that, truly one of the greatest players to ever play the game of football. Please join me, guys, in welcoming Pro Football Hall of Famer number 238, Mr. Bruce Matthews. Now, Bruce, you got any opening remarks you want to start with, or you want to go straight to the questions?
Thank you.
That's a good start. So
Yeah.
I'll go with the question because I think this will get us moving in the right direction. We mentioned those Hall of Fame values: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, honesty. Is there one of those that when you hear it, you're like, this was important? This is what Bruce Matthews was all about throughout his life, throughout his career.
I think, especially from a football perspective, honesty is the biggest thing. And why I love football so much is you can't fake it, football. Okay. I don't care who you are, how big you are, how talented you are, you're going to get your ass whipped at some point. And you have to find out, what am I going to do about that? You know, and so much more about honesty as well as understanding, especially from an offensive lineman perspective, that I have to trust the guys playing next to me. Okay. I have to trust that they'd put their work in the weight room, in their playbooks, in the classroom, so they'll be eligible. But at the same time, so I can trust them and we can work together as a team. So I think honesty, being honest with yourself, understanding that you're doing all you can to be the best player you can be, is probably the one that resonates with me.
Yeah, and like you said, it can impact you on the football field, but like we always like honesty, whether or not you play football, that's an important value
Absolutely.
and characteristic to have. In your response there, you mentioned trust and the importance of trust. Can you just speak, and I know some of the guys sitting here play football, and we got a mix of athletes and non-athletes in front of us, both in person and virtually. What's so special about the huddle on a football team, the different backgrounds coming together? Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. It doesn't matter what color you are. All I want to know is that guy next to me is on the same page with me, that we aren't going to allow the people across the line of scrimmage to impose their will on us. We want to impose our will on them. And so it's something that's earned throughout the off season, throughout the summer workouts and things of that nature. And yeah, I got to be able to trust my teammate.
And it's one of those things that it has a huge impact on the football field, but those lessons about it doesn't matter what color you are, what background you come from, that's life. We're on teams in life, and that's something that our students, I think, can definitely relate to. Any students here, though, at Parkville, we're going to start with you guys. We're going to go through our students and let you guys be involved with the program. Anybody here that's got a question, go ahead, raise your hand. We'll get a question right over here. My man, yep, go ahead. Stand up, say your name, and Mr. Matthews, answer your question. How did you handle adversity?
I think that's such a great question, because that is what football is all about. Like I said earlier, we're all going to get our butts whipped, okay? And it's a decision. What am I going to do about it? Am I going to, hey, I'll just go home, tell him the coach screwed me and I'll transfer, you know? that seems popular nowadays, but I was very blessed. My dad played in the NFL. My older brother played in the NFL. They set a great example for me. And the biggest thing I thought is responding to adversity. You know, God's very efficient. He won't allow us to stay where we are. He's going to bring adversity in your life. Um, it's it's foolish to think that we're going to reach some point in our lives where everything's smooth and everything's calm. God loves us too much and will bring adversity into all our lives. And it's how are we going to decide to respond to it? And I think that's a great lesson. And it doesn't matter if you're in high school or you're a 63-year-old man like me.
Your response there makes me think of the quote I've heard, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Whether that's in a workout that's challenging yourself academically, it's going to ask for a date, whatever. You got to get yourself in those uncomfortable situations, and get comfortable pushing yourself. That's where real growth will happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, any other questions here from Parkville? We'll go right here in the middle. We're right there. Yep.
My name is Chris Lloyd. What, playing so many positions on the offensive line, what was the one thing you can say helped you playing and on the importance of each position?
Yeah, I was fortunate. I played all 5 positions on the O-line. And again, my dad told me, he said, do whatever the coach tells you. Now, did I always agree with that? No. But for example, in 9th grade, they said, hey, can anybody long snap? And I'm like, do I really want to? No, but I want to compete. I loved competing and like finding out how I measured up against other guys. And so I long snapped all through high school. When I went to USC, I snapped on field goals. And then I go to the NFL for 15 years. I snapped on punts and covered punts. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I wish I hadn't listened to my dad about that. Because, sometimes you're gassed after an offensive series. And I would have benefited from the extra oxygen on the sideline, if you will. But I think the biggest thing is understanding that the fundamentals are your bedrock, the thing that you have to build on, especially at offensive lineman. And it took me, I was blessed. I played 19 years in the league. Okay. And it wasn't until about year 12 or 13 when I realized that, man, if I take the right steps, play with a base, do all the things that your coaches teach you in individual that you hate, and you're like, this is stupid. I never do this, right? But then you figure out they're teaching it for a reason. And it's amazing. And what I found out was I'd gotten by with really good athleticism for a big guy. And then when I was able to implement the fundamentals, in pass protection, in run blocking, and playing with a base, all the things that I'm sure every offensive lineman or defensive lineman gets sick of hearing from their coaches, it truly is the most important thing, the fundamentals. And that holds true for life as well. Getting the fundamentals of life down are going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, that's definitely a way to be successful. And you were successful at all 5 positions plus long snap.
Yeah.
That's pretty rare in the National Football League to see a guy that can have that versatility.
Yeah,
So.
pretty funny. I always like to say I was the Oilers/Titans because I started with the Houston Oilers. How many of you guys remember Houston Oilers? None of you. You weren't born yet. Only them old dudes in the back. But the point being, so I had probably 15, maybe I'm being a little generous, 12 tackles on punt coverage throughout my career. And most of those were in my first 5 years. And then the last 10 years of punt coverage about 2 or 3. So I'd jump on the pole and be the last guy to get up so that the stat dude would think I made the tackle.
Give you credit for it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're going to go to one of our schools that's connecting in virtually. We're going to go to Owen Scholastic Academy. So if they want to have a student, go ahead and stand up and make their way to the camera, and the microphone can be unmuted, and they'll come with a question from Chicago there at Owen Scholastic.
Chicago. Which one's that? Oh, that left middle?
Yep.
All right.
Hi. What are some of the biggest achievements in your football career, and how did your character help you reach them?
What was the last word?
How did your character help you reach those achievements?
All right. So this was really cool. And I think we need like a TV special on us. But my brother Clay, you guys probably remember my nephew Clay, who played for the Green Bay, the Packers, the kid with the long blonde hair, do all that crap. But even he might be too old for y'all now. But my brother Clay played for the Browns for 19 years as well. I wanted to be like my brother. I ended up playing 19 because he played 19. He was 5 years older than me. Back in the day, the Oilers and the Browns were in the same conference. We were in the AFC Central with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. So twice a year, I got to play against my brother, Clay. He's a linebacker. I'm an offensive lineman. He beat me for a sack one time, sacked Warren Moon. He made a few plays on me. I hit him in the back a couple times, but the point being is that was one of the coolest things that I ever got to do. I ended up playing against him like 23 times, and I think it's not many guys can say that they got to do that. In terms of other accomplishments, got to play in the Super Bowl, lost. You guys remember that, 2000? No, you weren't.
1 yard short.
Yeah, we played the Rams, stopped 1 yard short of tying up the game and sending it to overtime. And then obviously a huge thrill was making it in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's like I said, I never anticipated. When I was a kid, I loved watching the NFL. My dad played for the 49ers back in the 50s. Like I said, my brother played for the Browns, but I had no expectation that I would ever play in the league. And what a thrill to make it into the league. So it was something I really cherished, and I realized it was a great honor to be there. And you start hearing the statistics and stuff on how rarely it happens, how many guys go to play college, NFL, whatever the case may be. And very cool. So now my son, Jake, plays for the Falcons. He just finished his 11th year. Jake Matthews, starting left tackle. It's pretty cool. Matthews have been very blessed NFL-wise.
And the character of the Matthews family is kind of what's kind of driven you guys generation to generation to see that success in the National Football League. For our students sitting here and watching, they might not know this Hager gold jacket. That's one of those iconic symbols, I guess is what you'd call it, the bronze bust, the ring of excellence. But that jacket, what does it mean to you to have that jacket to be number 238?
They got my name in here, so that's pretty cool. Just when you realize and you look back and you say, I couldn't do this ever in my wildest fantasy. I was blessed I was like 6'5", 305 when I played. Like I said, I could move around. The good Lord blessed me and my family with just protection. I played 19 years, never missed a game due to injury. And that isn't a me thing. That's a God thing. And I paid for it a little bit after my career, fell coaching my kids in Pee Wee football, tore my quad tendon and stuff like that. But very blessed. That's what my takeaway is.
So we talk about the jacket. I mentioned, there's some other iconic symbols, and something we try to do with each of these programs is we want all of our students, the viewers, to see, who we are at our core as a museum. And we're actually going to go live to Jerry Shockey, a friend of Bruce that they've worked together in the past. And Jerry is going to show us something really cool that we've got inside the museum. So Jerry, go ahead and take it away.
All righty. Thank you, Nathan. And Bruce, good to see you, my friend. How are you doing?
Good to see you, Jerry.
Good, good. Just admit to everyone that your second favorite moment at the Hall of Fame, next to getting your bronze bus, was spending, 5-6 hours in the car with me, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So hey, I want to just welcome everyone to the most iconic gallery here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's the Hall of Fame Gallery. And just to give you guys an idea of just how big of an honor it is to be talking to Bruce Matthews here today. So overall, since the game has been played at all levels, from Little League up to professional, throughout its history, there have been roughly about 300 million that have played the game. We take that to the collegiate level. There have been about 5 million that have played at the collegiate level. In the NFL, you're talking roughly about 30,000 players, coaches, and officials, okay? In the Pro Football Hall of Fame, giving the new class coming up here, there are only 382 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So that gives you an idea of how big of an honor, how elite Mr. Matthews is. And let me just say, I know him very well personally. He is a Hall of Famer on the field, but more importantly, off the field. He's got a servant's heart, and that's what I want to talk to you real quick about today, Bruce. Is this bust? When we think about this gallery, one of the words that comes to my mind all the time is legacy. And I know that this isn't the only thing you want to be known for, that you have a lot more important things in life that you want to be known for. Can you talk with students about what legacy means to you and what you want your legacy to be with family, friends, and just anyone around you?
Yeah, I really, and I don't mean to demean it by this, but it isn't that I could care less. I love it. I love being in the Hall of Fame. I'm very proud of it. It's a blessing, and it allows me to do a lot of things that I wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And but my wife and I, Carrie, have been married 41 years. I met her at USC. We have 7 kids. Did I say that? And 10 grandbabies. And I want those kids and grandbabies to be God-fearing people who love Jesus and live their life in that regard. So that's the legacy I want. And I had 4 of my boys. They played at Texas A&M. And Jake, like I said, is just finished his 11th year with the Falcons. So being a football player is not what we are. It's just something that God has blessed us to be able to do. And it ain't the big deal. It isn't the most important thing.
That's that O-lineman mentality, humility, and especially USC O-lineman, right? There's a few of them in the Hall of Fame. So, yeah. So, Bruce, good to see you, my friend. I'm sure we'll cross paths here soon. And Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerry. And thanks for giving us that look inside the museum, and really appreciated, your sentiment there on what you want your legacy to be. In preparation for the program, Bruce is an author. I was doing a little bit of reading.
I had a guy help me big time.
So maybe you can talk about that, about the challenges of trying to write a book and get the help with that. But Inside the NFL's First Family is the book. But you mentioned in there, and I think this is relevant for our students, because they see Bruce Matthews, they see the gold jacket, they see the bronze bus, they hear about playing in the Super Bowl, 19 years in the league, playing all 5 positions. They're like, this dude's a stud. Like, this dude must have had it pretty easy, right? But in here, you talk about, I think it was around middle school age, you had some struggles, and you saw your mom also with depression. and trying to work through that. Can you just talk about that experience and maybe the importance of asking for help through
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah, definitely. Going through, when I was a kid, we moved around a lot, and I did not do well around new people, new situations, new environments. And, yeah, I would go through like weeks of depression. And, my mother had experienced depression and had some, bad episodes with it. But, I think the big thing was, what was the question?
Just, through that experience, the importance of being willing to go ask for help.
Oh, yeah.
Someone
I'm
with
sorry.
your accomplishments.
Yeah, definitely. And, even to the point, like people are fascinated when I admit this. When we played a game, okay, I played, I think 296 regular season games. And, every game I was scared to death. Okay. I'll never forget pulling in like to Pittsburgh or somewhere. And, every one of those teams had amazing tailgates, and you could smell the burgers and the brats and the dogs cooking. And I'd be like, oh God, I wish I was there right now. I'm so scared. Take me anywhere other than this right now. I was scared to death. Okay. And then once I got out on the field, first play goes by, you kind of settle down and get in your groove. Same thing with practice. I'll never forget my last year. I'm 40 years old and we're in training camp. And I'm like, I want to be anywhere but right here, right now. I'm scared to death. And I had made like 14 Pro Bowls in a row and stuff, and you'd think you had it made. My point being is, yeah, we all struggle with something. And I think, especially as men, we have are very hesitant to ask for help. And if you're having help or if you're having issues, man, the best move you can make sometimes as a man is asking for help. So I think that would be the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I appreciate you kind of diving a little bit more into that and being honest, open. We talk about honesty, open, vulnerable with these guys on that. At this point, we want to go to Choices High School. They're actually a high school there in Canton, Ohio, and get one of their students to come up and ask their question. Go ahead, unmute their mic and ask a question for Mr. Matthews.
So my question is, what character qualities do you believe it takes to be a Pro Hall of Famer player?
Best quality required?
Best qualities required to be a Hall of Famer.
What I've noticed with the guys that I've watched, whether it's Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or all the NFL Hall of Famers, is their refusal to get beat. And they will not give up at all. Okay. Like to me, I loved winning. I loved when good things happened, but I hated more like some dude on defense making a play on me, getting a sack. It was more detestable to me to allow someone to make a play on me than I enjoyed the good stuff. And I think that refusal, that compete, like you're gonna have to, I don't know how I say this, but you're gonna have to knock me out because otherwise I'm not gonna give up. I think that's the biggest trait that people in the Hall of Fame, they definitely have that refuse to lose mentality.
Yeah, it's kind of like a resiliency, a perseverance.
Definitely.
Just a fearless competitor, where you're not losing across the man across from you. And the thing is, like we're talking about it in a football context, but I always want to tie it back in for our students that maybe aren't football players. That could be on your next test.
Absolutely.
Like I'm not gonna get anything but an A plus.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna do everything in my power.
I may have taken 3 Fs in a row, and we can translate that to a football scenario. You may have kicked my ass 3 plays in a row, but play 4 is coming up, and I refuse to lose.
Absolutely. So I think that is a great trait that probably all of our Hall of Famers have exhibited to different levels. You don't get that gold jacket just by, rolling out of bed. So I want to go to another one of our schools that's connected in here remotely, North Ridgeville Academic Center there in North Ridgeville, Ohio. So go ahead and have a student stand up and ask your question there at North Ridgeville.
Well, back, Cody. Back a little bit. There you go. Okay, you can have your question.
As one of the leaders on the team, how did you keep the locker room positive and make sure everybody was getting along?
Question. So much is talked about, like, what are leaders supposed to do? Like making a speech. My thing on guys making speeches, especially in pregame, like a lot of the dudes that speak are guys that shouldn't be speaking, right? Yeah, their heart's in the right place, but what I want to hear from or what I want to see, like for example, these guys you might remember, Eddie George, Steve McNair. Those were guys that you knew had put in the time, had worked physically the best they could, especially Eddie George. Dude was like 2.5% body fat, 6'2", 240-pound running back, just a freak. It's like, oh my gosh, God, you chiseled out of granite, this dude. But anyway, my point being is when he spoke, he carried weight. And even if he didn't give a speech, he led the team by example. And I think that's all of us. It's like one thing to talk about what you should be doing. It's another thing to show people what you should be doing.
Was there a moment in your career, 19 years, and that's almost 2 decades, right, where you felt like you kind of transitioned from maybe the quiet, young, rookie type player to like, oh no, wait, I need to be one of the leaders. Like I need to step up and maybe find a voice a little bit even.
Yeah. Back with the Oilers, the oldest guy in the weight room got to control what channel the radio station was on. When I got control of the radio station, then I realized I was the leader.
Hey, the music is a big thing with the guys. I'm sure they would tell you as well what they want to listen to during workouts. So that's an important responsibility.
Yeah, definitely.
Want to go back here to our students at Parkville High School, see if anyone has a question for Mr. Matthews. Right there in the middle.
Problem that I have during like the season is a commitment when you also learn a Hall of Fame there. So how is it that you were able to every day like be so committed to the game? How were you able to get so such time?
So just so the audience online can hear, how were you able to stay so committed every single day throughout your career?
I think the biggest thing is just I hated losing. And I especially, if some dude beat me on a play, whether it was practice, whether it was walkthrough, whether it was throwing wads of paper in the trash can, I just hated losing. And that was probably the biggest thing for me. That just competitive nature and just knowing, hey, how can I get better? How can I improve? And like I referenced a couple minutes ago, I was 40 years old my last year, and you'd think, well, he's kind of got it down, right? I remember having a checklist at practice, a mental type checklist saying, I got to work on this, I got to work on that. And you never, and especially in life, whether it's your relationship with your wife or husband or your kids or your job, you can always get better. And are you willing to put in the time? I think that's a huge part of it.
I think that growth mindset, that understanding of, hey, I've been in this league 19 years, but there's ways I can still improve.
Yeah.
Right. Like I've been in this relationship for insert number of times. I can still be better. Right. I've been in this class for 3 semesters. You can still get better in the fourth quarter.
Absolutely.
There's always ways that we can improve in life. And I think that's very relatable for our students. I was sitting here trying to think of ways. We're in Baltimore. You didn't play for the Baltimore Ravens.
No.
You didn't play for the Baltimore Colts.
No.
I don't know if our students know who the Baltimore Colts are, but how do we relate Bruce Matthews to Baltimore? And reading, you had a pretty neat milestone that you accomplished here in Baltimore when you accomplished playing in more games than any other offensive lineman past Jackie Slater. So can you kind of just speak to what it took to be there every single day, every single game? We talked about the commitment already, but just that reliability. Where did that come from for you?
I honestly believe that if I wasn't in there, then the dude who was in there was going to take my spot. And that was part of the long snapping deal. Was I super excited to long snap when I was, 38 years old? No. But at the same time, in training camp, when they'd go out, I go, I can't allow them to go over there. I can do it better than them. And yeah, it's just understanding. I didn't not want to be in there. I wanted to be in there and to get the reps, and I didn't want anybody taking my spot. I guess it's kind of selfish,
Yeah. And just for our audience here, can you maybe speak to, you were telling me a little bit beforehand, how challenging some of those Ravens teams
Yeah.
were to play against, some of those players that you got to play against that were so talented?
Yeah, the what year was that? 2000 Ravens were with Ray Lewis, Peter Boulware, just all those guys, Sirgusa, Sam Adams, just so good across the board. And we were now the Titans. We fashioned ourselves to be a physical, hard-nosed team with Eddie George and Steve McNair at quarterback. But man, they were all that. They're good players. They'd let you know it. They'd yap. But they backed it up, to their credit. That was the best defense I had ever played against, and even to this day.
A fun question we like to ask our Hall of Famers is, you played the offensive line. So was there a defensive lineman that when you're preparing for that guy throughout the week that made you stay up a little bit later at night, that kind of was just a challenging, like the way he was built, the way he played, a guy that really challenged Bruce Matthews on the field?
Yeah, the thing in the NFL was that every guy, it didn't matter if they were from Southeastern Northwest state, they brought something. If they were on an NFL roster, they could embarrass you if you let your guard down or you weren't doing all the preparation work that you needed to do. And yeah, the guys, John Randall, all the Hall of Fame guys, Warren Sapp, Howie Long. Yeah, you definitely, when the roster or the schedule came out and you saw who you were playing over the course of the season, yeah, I'd wake up or not have a little trouble falling asleep playing against those guys.
Let's go back here to Parkville. Any other students that want to go ahead and ask a question to Mr. Matthews? Right here. We got one. Oh, wait. Go ahead, in the back. Yep. What was that moment where, you said you didn't think you were going to play in the NFL, that moment where you're like, oh, I might actually be good enough to do this. I might actually make it.
Oh, yeah. Funny because, like I said, I had no expectation that I was going to make it to the NFL, but went to USC, Trojans, fight on. Hopefully we'll be back soon. And I go into our offensive line room, okay? And at the time, I go, man, these guys are pretty good, okay? It turns out that looking back on this, we had 6 future first-round picks on the offensive line at USC my freshman year. One of them, Anthony Munoz, made the Hall of Fame. The others, 6 first-rounders. That's crazy. But anyway, I remember thinking these guys were making all the All-American teams and stuff, and I just wanted to say I was part of the deal. I got to wear the jacket or whatever. But then over the course of my career, we started playing, and I'm like, man, that dude, he got drafted in the first round. I know I'm not exactly all he is, but I feel like I'm pretty good. I can at least compete with him. It was then when I was watching those guys and they were getting drafted, and then it was a very gradual process of finding out that they actually were interested in me.
Yeah, being around all that greatness and then kind of daily comparing yourself to it, eventually light bulb goes, hey, I'm right there with these guys. I'm not that far off. I might be able to do this.
Football has changed so much in terms of like the contact and everything. Like at USC, we got after it. And these were a bunch of number 1 draft picks that you're competing against. And you had a choice to make. Talk about the choice. You can keep taking your butt whippings, or you can find a way. And it was a great laboratory for developing your craft.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I want to go back to one of our virtual schools. We're going to go back to Choices High School there in Canton. If they want to have another student with a question, they can go ahead and unmute and go ahead with your question.
Okay, how important do you feel accountability is on and off the field?
One more time.
How important do you think accountability is on and off the field?
Oh my gosh. Everything. Being accountable, right? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Or am I half-assing it? And say, for example, in the weight room, am I doing all my sets? Okay. Am I, somebody calling somebody out there? I'm sorry.
No, you're
am I doing what I'm supposed to do to be the best player I can be in the classroom? Am I doing my work? Am I doing what's required of me? Or am I just half-stepping, right? And those habits that we develop now when we're young carry over later in life. And I think it's a great time for y'all to develop good habits and carry them throughout your life.
And it seems like the people that end up being the most successful are able to generate like that self-discipline where they don't need somebody else to hold them accountable. They're going to hold themselves to such a high standard. You didn't need one of your teammates to make sure you're getting all your reps in the weight room.
Right.
You got all your reps in.
I brought up Eddie George before because what a freak he was. And great dude too. Great teammate. But I remember he would do the normal workout, and then he'd be out on the field doing this extra workout. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you can't lose any more body fat. You don't have any. And here, I'll give you some of mine.
Well, that's how you get chiseled the way that you described Eddie George,
Yeah,
I guess, is doing
definitely.
that. So Gonna go here to North Ridgeville for a question online. So if they want to have another student stand up there and unmute their mic, we'll be ready for your question.
What's one lesson that you learned that you would want to pass on to younger players going into the NFL today?
A lesson that you learned that you would want to pass on to players going into the NFL today?
I think so much, and especially for high school kids, everyone's so worried about, are the colleges going to find me? Okay. The biggest thing is if you can play, they will find you. All right. Even at the collegiate level, you may be playing at a D2 or D3 or whatever the school may be, but they will find you if you can play. And take it another step. They got this UFL and all these venues to be able to show your skills. But at the same time, you still have that opportunity to continue to get stronger and faster and bigger, but improving yourself.
I think that's great advice, kind of back to what we already talked about. I know we had another student here at Parkville that had a question. We'll go to our guy right there. He can stand up, name, and your question for Mr. Matthews.
My question is, like, more in childhood, like what events took place that shaped you into the man you are today?
Events during your childhood that kind of shaped you into the man that you are today.
Gosh, that's a good question. I think just having the example of my older brother and my dad having played in the league. And here's another one. My dad was also, he went to Georgia Tech back in the 40s. And he was the heavyweight Golden Gloves boxing champion of Georgia while he's at Georgia playing football. And he's whatever conference they were in, a heavyweight wrestling champion. And that was the extent of his boxing. But he did teach me to throw a jab, and to protect myself. And so my best friend in high school, he had the old school metal mouth braces. And he goes, "Hey, let's put the gloves on." We had a pair of boxing gloves. And I just start peppering him with jabs in the mouth, right? And his lips get all jacked up and they're bleeding and stuff. And I'll never forget, my dad had just pulled in from work and he saw my buddy's mouth. He goes, "Hey, tough guy, put the gloves back on. You aren't going to do that to your buddy." And sure enough, it was like Rocky. My dad's jacking my head, only for a few times though. But it taught me a lesson, don't abuse the privilege.
Yeah, that's definitely a moment that impacted you from your childhood.
Yeah.
That you still remember to this day. Reading about you and reading this book and just online, family is so important to you. And you've talked a lot about your brother and your dad. Can you kind of just tell our audience a little bit about your family and how that family unit has been there for you, thick or thin, and how important it is to have something like that?
I think the obvious thing is my older brother Clay and my parents being around and doing all that. But we had in our family two special needs brothers, and Brad and Ray, and they were Special Olympics athletes, played basketball, swam. In fact, we lived in Southern California, and my brothers Brad and Ray were playing a charity game against the LA Rams. And my brothers got kicked out of the game for being too rough and arguing with the officials, so it was like, all right. And then, like I said, we have 7 children, and our youngest daughter, Gwen, has Down syndrome. And I think my biggest takeaway from having this people with special needs in my life is understanding that God can use anyone. And we are so blessed to have a daughter with Down syndrome that she has taught her older brothers and sisters about compassion and about just being loving. Because Gwenny, our daughter with Down syndrome, is mostly nonverbal, you know, but she will hug you to death.
Yeah.
And it's just an amazing thing to see in my family. And we're so thankful for it.
Yeah. And I think what you're kind of saying there, the importance of seeing the value in every single person. Every single person in this room has value.
Amen.
Has potential. And if we can recognize that in the people that we interact with every day, the relationships become a little bit more positive. The interactions become a little bit more positive.
Yeah.
I think your family's taught you that.
Not to get too biblical, but we're all created in God's image. So we all have estimable, we have a lot of value compared from God's perspective. And when we see other people that way, it changes the dynamic.
Absolutely. Well, we're getting close to our time here, and I gotta, stick to the schedule. I know that you're a man of routine. You like schedules too.
Yeah.
So, if we were to leave our students that are watching online and sitting here in person, with that just final piece of advice, that nugget that maybe they forget everything else we've talked about, but they're going to leave and they're going to remember one thing that Bruce Matthews told them today. What's that one thing that you want the students to remember from our program today?
Gosh, I think that forget football, whatever we do, we're to do it to bring glory to God. And that's the bottom line right there, Football, yes, I've been blessed, and it's cool for all the things that have come with it. But I don't think God gives me any extra points because I'm in the Hall of Fame. We want his approval so that one day he says, well done, good and faithful servant. So no matter what you do it the best you can.
Amen. Amen. And like you said, it doesn't have to be football. That can be anything. I think that's great advice for our students. No matter what you do it to the best of your ability. And with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this installment of the Heart of a Hall of Famer series connected by Extreme Networks with class of 2007 Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Bruce Matthews. Let's go ahead and give him a round of applause. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for doing the program with us. Thank you for everything you've done for the game of football, for the Hall of Fame. And to our audience online, thank you guys for tuning in. And hopefully we'll see everybody the next time we do one of these programs. But until then, see you later.